In the world today, many mysterious things happen, but the story of how a single email shakes the foundations of a nation is something that intertwines technology, politics, espionage, as well as the fragile trust of a democracy of an entire nation. America. In the summer of 2016, the world watched as the United States, a country often seen as the bedrock of modern democracy, found itself rocked by the fallout from an unprecedented digital breach. It began quietly in the shadows of cyberspace, where hackers later identified as Russian intelligence operatives gained access to the internal communications of the Democratic National Committee, or DNC. These emails, numbering in the tens of thousands, chronicled months of private conversations, strategies, and candid opinions among the party's top officials. Please subscribe to the channel to support what we do and help us keep digging into these hidden stories. Now let's dive in. The breach itself was not immediately public knowledge. For months, the hackers sifted through the digital trove, searching for information that could be weaponized. Their motives, as later revealed by U.S. intelligence agencies, were not only to embarrass the DNC but to sow discord in the American political process and undermine faith in its electoral system. The first major leak came in June 2016, when a website called DC Leaks began publishing selected emails. But the true bombshell dropped on July 22, just days before the Democratic National Convention, when WikiLeaks released nearly 20,000 DNC emails to the world. The timing was no accident. The Democratic Party was preparing to nominate Hillary Clinton as its candidate for president, and the convention was meant to be a celebration of unity. Instead, the leaked emails exposed deep divisions within the party, revealing that DNC officials had privately favored Clinton over her rival, Bernie Sanders, during the primaries. The emails showed DNC staffers mocking Sanders' campaign and discussing ways to undermine him, despite the committee's public claims of neutrality. The revelations infuriated Sanders' supporters, many of whom felt vindicated in their suspicions that the primary process had been rigged against their candidate. The fallout was immediate and dramatic. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC chairwoman, resigned on the eve of the convention, followed by other top officials in the days that followed. The party issued a formal apology to Sanders and his supporters, but the damage had been done. The convention, instead of a show of unity, was marred by protests and boos from disillusioned delegates. The Democratic Party's divisions were laid bare for the world to see, just as the general election campaign was set to begin. But the impact of the email leak went far beyond the convention floor. The content of the emails fueled a media frenzy, dominating headlines and cable news for weeks. Every new revelation, every snide comment or questionable strategy was dissected and debated, amplifying the sense of chaos within the party. For Hillary Clinton, the timing could not have been worse. Already facing scrutiny over her own use of a private email server during her tenure as Secretary of State, the DNC leak reinforced a narrative of secrecy and mistrust that dogged her campaign. The Republican nominee, Donald Trump, seized on the controversy, using it to paint Clinton and the Democrats as corrupt and untrustworthy. The email scandal became a rallying cry at Trump's campaign rallies, energizing his base and dominating the political conversation. Meanwhile, U.S. intelligence agencies began investigating the source of the leaks. Their findings would later confirm that Russian operatives operating under the pseudonym Guccifer 2.0 were behind the hack, with the goal of interfering in the U.S. election and undermining faith in American democracy. The email leaks were not just a political embarrassment, they were a national security crisis. They revealed how vulnerable even the most powerful institutions could be to cyberattacks and how easily information could be weaponized in the digital age. As the election drew closer, the impact of the leaks continued to reverberate. Polls showed that public trust in the Democratic Party had eroded and Clinton's lead over Trump narrowed. The email scandal became a central issue in the campaign, overshadowing policy debates and fueling conspiracy theories. The controversy reached a fever pitch in late October when FBI Director James Comey announced that the Bureau was reopening its investigation into Clinton's private email server, after new emails were discovered on the laptop of a Clinton aide's husband. The announcement, made just days before the election, sent shockwaves through the political world. Although the FBI ultimately concluded that there was no evidence of criminal wrongdoing, the damage was done. Clinton herself would later attribute her loss, in part, to Comey's announcement and the relentless focus on emails in the final days of the campaign. Political analysts and scholars have since studied the impact of the email leaks and the FBI's actions, with several studies concluding that the controversy significantly influenced the outcome of the 2016 election. The episode has become a case study in how information, true, false, or taken out of context, can shape public opinion and alter the course of history. But the story does not end with the election. In the years that followed, investigations by Congress, the FBI, and Special Counsel Robert Mueller would uncover the full extent of Russian interference in the 2016 election, including the DNC email hack. The Mueller investigation indicted several Russian intelligence officers for their role in the hack, providing detailed evidence of how the operation was carried out and how the stolen emails were disseminated through intermediaries like WikiLeaks. The revelations raised urgent questions about the security of American elections and the vulnerability of democratic institutions to foreign interference. Lawmakers and intelligence officials warned that similar attacks could happen again and called for stronger cybersecurity measures and greater vigilance. For the Democratic Party, the email leak was a painful lesson in the importance of transparency and internal unity. The party undertook reforms to improve its cybersecurity and restore trust among its members, but the scars from 2016 lingered. The episode also forced a reckoning within the media as journalists grappled with the ethical challenges of reporting on hacked materials and the potential for such leaks to be used as tools of disinformation. For the American public, the email scandal was a stark reminder of how fragile democracy can be in the digital age. The lines between truth and falsehood, between legitimate journalism and weaponized leaks, had become dangerously blurred. The DNC email leak was not the first time that information had been used to destabilize a political system, but it was perhaps the most dramatic example in the era of instant, global communication. It demonstrated how a single breach, one email, or a collection of emails could be amplified by social media, exploited by adversaries, and used to undermine the legitimacy of an entire election. The repercussions of the leak continue to be felt today. The 2016 election marked a turning point in how nations think about cybersecurity, information warfare, and the integrity of democratic processes. It also set a precedent for future political campaigns, which now operate under the constant threat of cyber attacks and the possibility that their private communications could be exposed to the world. The story of the email that took down an entire country is ultimately a cautionary tale about the power of information and the dangers of complacency in the face of new technological threats. It is a story of how trust, once broken, can be difficult to restore, and how the consequences of a single breach can ripple outward, affecting not just an election, but the very fabric of a nation. In the aftermath of the DNC leak, the United States embarked on a period of soul-searching as citizens and leaders alike grappled with the implications of what had happened and what it meant for the future of democracy. The episode also highlighted the importance of resilience, the ability of a society to withstand shocks, adapt to new threats, and emerge stronger from crisis. For historians, the 2016 DNC email leak will be remembered as a pivotal moment, one that exposed the vulnerabilities of even the most powerful nations and forced a re-examination of the foundations of democratic governance. For politicians and policymakers, it served as a wake-up call, prompting new investments in cybersecurity and renewed efforts to protect the integrity of elections. For ordinary citizens, it was a reminder that democracy is not a given, but something that must be actively defended against those who would seek to undermine it. The DNC email leak also had a profound impact on the global stage as other countries watched and learned from the American experience, taking steps to safeguard their own political systems from similar attacks. It sparked a broader conversation about the role of technology in society, the responsibilities of tech companies, and the need for greater digital literacy among the public. The episode also underscored the importance of accountability, both for those who commit cybercrimes and for those who fail to prevent them. In the years since the leak, new laws and regulations have been enacted to strengthen cybersecurity and deter foreign interference, but the threat remains ever present. The story of the email that shook a nation is a reminder that vigilance is the price of freedom and that the battle to protect democracy is never truly over. It is a story that continues to unfold as new challenges and new threats emerge in an increasingly interconnected world. The DNC email leak was a watershed moment, one that forced the United States and the world to confront the realities of information warfare in the 21st century. It showed that in the digital age, the fate of nations can hinge on the security of a single email and that the battle for truth is more important than ever. As we look to the future, the lessons of 2016 remain urgent and relevant. The need for transparency, accountability, and resilience has never been greater. The story of the email that took down an entire country is, in the end, a story about the power of information and the responsibility that comes with it. It is a story that challenges us to think critically, to question what we read and hear, and to demand the highest standards of integrity from our leaders and institutions. The DNC email leak may have been a crisis, but it was also an opportunity, a chance to learn, to adapt, and to build a stronger, more resilient democracy for the future. As new technologies emerge and the pace of change accelerates, the lessons of 2016 will continue to guide us, reminding us that the security of our democracy depends on the vigilance of us all. The story is not just about emails or hackers or political parties. It is about the enduring struggle to protect the values that define us as a nation and the ongoing fight to ensure that democracy prevails. In the end, the email that shook America was more than just a digital document. It was a symbol of the challenges and opportunities of our time and a call to action for all who believe in the promise of democracy. The events of 2016 will be studied and debated for years to come, but one thing is clear: the power of information, for good or ill, has never been greater. And as we face the future, we must remember that the fate of our country and of democracy itself may one day depend on how we respond to the next email, the next leak, the next test of our resolve. If you made it this far, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more stories they don't want you to know.